My mother passed away about 14 years ago, and up until that point, she tried to keep us all together as a dysfunctional, somewhat family. So once she passed, we all kind of went our separate ways.
So you don't have any kind of relationship with Armie right now or in the last 14 years?
Not currently, no. I mean, for me, it was when I started seeing him in the press and the media and his bad behavior. I wasn't shocked by a lot of it, just because that's based on my experiences, the way I grew up in my family. It was generations of abusive men. And so for me, it was about, once that surface, being able to hold people accountable and kind of say enough's enough. That, it's something I've been saying for the last 61 years, that this bad behavior has been happening in my family, and it was time to stop. And again, it's more about holding them accountable. And then once the victims started coming forward and hearing their recounts of things, it was awful, because most people were focusing on Armie's career, or the headlines, whereas people really should have been focusing on the victims. I mean, they're the people that have to live with what was done to them and the scars of abuse, be it sexual, physical, mental, emotional. It's a mind control. It's a manipulation. It's these smart, powerful women, as you'll see in House of Hammer, coming forward, talking about this. And again, it shines a light and helps victims know they're not alone, because that's the one thing about abusers. They try and isolate you and manipulate you and make it feel like it's your fault, and that you have no power. And it's time to hold powerful, rich men accountable. It's like when Me Too came out, or it was a focus on the work environment, right? Well, there also needs to be Me Too for the home, because they need to be held accountable. Because just because your parents give birth to you and pretend to love you, it doesn't mean that they can do whatever they want to you or it's right. And it's time for people. You have a choice, right? You have a choice to say no. You have a choice to think you're enough and you're worth it, to demand respect, integrity, and just what's right. To be honest with you, if for anyone, I'm sure it was hard to read. I mean, I watch House of Hammer, and even though I lived in this family, I still, it's just the fact that as an adult, I sit here and I rewatch it, I get triggered and traumatized. I can't believe, as a child, I used to hold a phone book and let my father shoot at me. And, fast forward as an adult, same thing. It's like you're surprised at how you keep going back and how you keep putting yourself in that same toxic relationship, because you're searching for love. You're searching for someone to validate your existence. And it's really sad. And I think I'm here to tell my story so that people don't have to feel so alone and sad. I live my life where I hope that everyone who chooses to get well can. But again, if you don't choose it, it's not going to happen. I mean, in the docuseries, you see that my father was in and out of mental institutions. My grandfather controlled the narrative. So again, it was like, don't embarrass the family. So my father never did get well. And up until his death, he was doing all kinds of bad things. And so, but you hope one day that maybe, and that's the sickness, the sadness, the control, the abuse. It's because you keep going back hoping that you're that little girl hoping that your father's going to change and will love you, and whatever kind of love that means, you accept it because you think that that's love. Yes. And again, I speak to that a lot more in my book that I wrote. And so in the docuseries, we touch on it. It's a very hard situation for me to discuss. It's still something that I get help and seek. And I think you could see in House of Hammer, where I was being filmed in my 30s in that garage, and the simulated rape scene, and it was all of a sudden so real, and everything clicked into place that I became aware of this is real life. I mean, it goes down into your cells, and you get triggered by the littlest of things, but it just really showed me that either I need help or I'm not long for this world. So, and that moment I chose to get help, and again, people, you need help to get through. When I wrote the book, it was more of a journaling, it was more of a healing for me, right? And then I self-published it, and it was more about empowering myself and then anybody else that might stumble across the book. I mean, I controlled the narrative. And then 7 years later, I was in San Diego, a home, kitchen designer at Home Depot, living my life quietly. And then the Zen Blonde outed me on TikTok. And within 2 hours, my whole life changed. So again, the power of social media, but that moment, it was out of control. I wasn't controlling anything. And that was the scary thing, because I didn't know what was next. So that's when you really have to stand in your own truth and say, I trust the universe is going to guide me and protect me and show me the right path. And again, it showed me my purpose, which is to continue the talk and to continue talking about my story, and hopefully empowering and helping, even one person heal and make a difference.
Wow.